Great.
All right. So good morning, everyone. I'm Ashley Walden Davis, and this session today is owning your own creative business. In the chat, I have put a folder that has materials for you as well as this presentation. But I will be tracking with it during the talk today, and then there are times I'll take it off. So if we want to engage with one another. So welcome, and I'm Ashley Walden Davis, and today is November 12th. This is a little bit about me to know my background and why I'm here. I like to say, not even teaching, talking this class with you all today. I'm the founder and executive director of Unlock Creative Coaching and Management Solutions. And I also have two other businesses, a nonprofit, which is the Unlock Creative Foundation, Inc., which is like the sister organization to the LLC, and a cooperative, the National Black Women Creative Cooperative. And then my background is in theater producing. So theater is my background. And with Edie, I actually know her daughter. That's how they connected with me. Her daughter stage managed at Cornerstone Theater when I worked at Cornerstone in Los Angeles from Cal Arts and then there. And then also I have a BA in theater studies. So it's like I'm a theater person turned, arts administrator, and what I've primarily done. And in my business, specifically, my business is dedicated to Black creatives, supporting them with the arts, business management, and professional development. So my work is this. That's what I like to do. Is everyone in that needs to be in? And y'all can help me with the chat too.
We do have one straggler. I haven't heard from her yet, Jocelyn. So if you see anyone in your waiting room, it might come up as a
I just welcomed a Mike.
Yeah,
Mike.
perfect. Okay.
Good morning.
Jocelyn.
Good morning, Jocelyn.
Good morning.
If you would you like to check in and just say your background and where you are calling in from today? Nice to meet you.
Hi. Yeah. So background, are you asking like
your creative discipline?
Sure. I'm a writer and I'm from Grand Rapids.
And how you doing today?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. So nice to have you. And we literally just got started. So you just got the intro card. And so now we like to set our meeting agreements, just how we want to be with each other today. And of course, when you're on Zoom, you can't see all the things. So for one, I need a chat monitor. So somebody's going to look at the chat. So who wants to be the chat monitor today? Who will volunteer to do it? And you can unmute yourself to say it because it's hard to see people and, when the screen share is going on.
I can do that.
Who was that?
Jocelyn.
Oh, thank you.
So Jocelyn is generally our official chat monitor.
Okay, perfect.
Jocelyn is on it, like providing us with resources, links, and within seconds. So I think you're in good hands.
Perfect. Well, Kiana, just to help, because new people can you repost the links that I put just so the new people can get the links?
Absolutely.
And the links are to the presentation and then the materials for you to have after. So then note taker Kiana is helping with notes. Who can help me with timekeeping today? If you're saying it, I can't see you. No takers on time? Okay, I'm gonna have to
I can handle time.
Well, Kiana, you can't do all the roles. Okay, well, somebody at least gonna be the DJ, and DJ is in the interim if we take a break and we need some little background music. Who is interested to help with that? I wanna volunteer you. Some of y'all singers, so y'all gotta be the DJ then. Y'all
I'll try to do that.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. Is that Jonathan?
Chris.
Okay, see, I can't see the thing come on mute. Okay, and then I'll tell you what an emotions monitor is. Emotions monitor is just a person that's a vibe checker. So potentially I could say something and it totally rubs everybody the wrong way and you turn off your camera because of that. But some of y'all already got your camera turned off, but also y'all know each other. Or it might be like, we need like a break. Like we've been going too long. So someone just to minding the vibe in the room. And again, all these roles we can help each other with, but to just help us. So Is anybody interested to be the emotions monitor, the vibe checker for us? I see somebody came on video that was off. I don't know if that's you.
Well, that's Cece.
Cece, you gonna be the vibe checker for us?
I can try. I'm still writing, but I'll try.
Yeah, you hear that
I'll try.
inflection in somebody's voice that you know, you can be like, hold on a minute.
All about it. This is a pretty chill group. We're just gonna listen and be obedient and astute. But I'll try.
Perfect.
I got you.
So we have a few meeting agreements that we just like to offer to bring into the space to help set the tone. Anyone interested and available to read the meeting agreements? And let me know if you can see my screen good for folks who are on your computer.
Yes. Yeah,
Okay.
that's great.
Jocelyn, do you feel like reading the meeting agreements?
Sure. Just all of them?
Yeah, why not?
Okay. Take care of your body. Use I statements. Yes, and instead of no, but. State all relevant info. State what acronyms mean. Be as present as possible. Greet warmly. Snap when in agreement. Emojis welcome. Assume positive intent. Offer solutions. Dream always. Shared power. Roles and accountability. Do not yell at one another. I don't think we'll have a problem with that. Access needs, oops and ouch, others. I think the oops and ouch, I know what that means. Does everybody know what that means?
And you can feel free to explain it too. That's all I was gonna do that. You can do that.
So the way that I understand oops and ouch, it's like whenever somebody says something that might hurt your feelings, saying ouch to acknowledge and honor that your feelings are hurt. And if you make a mistake that causes someone to say ouch, acknowledging that with an oops is an easy way to avoid conflict.
Yes, and the ouch also could be like a harm is in the room, so it might not be against you. It's just a harm, or like we make a statement. We talking and we make a statement about broad generalizing Black women, blah blah blah. I can be like, woo, okay, hold up, like that. So thank you so much. Any others that folks want to add or offer this morning?
So assume. Hold on, where to go? Assume positive intent. That is something that speaks to me 100%. And it is, I think I touched on it a little bit last week, is we have this innate kind of desire, a lot of times to think that someone meant to harm us in some sort of way. And when you assume best intent, that's kind of how I phrase it, is just always assuming that they didn't mean harm if they did cause harm, or that their intention is always coming from a good place. Now, we know that that's not always true, but if you assume best intent or if you assume positive intent, then you don't internalize whatever is going on around you.
Yeah, and I think that goes into play with the oops and outs, because we can acknowledge it to say, hey, did you mean that? Can you clarify what you just said about the election? I live in Georgia. What you mean? Yeah.
I was listening to a meeting, my partner's meeting the other day, and there was, I'll share it with my friends here, there was a participant who said, I was always raised to not see color.
Yeah, that's a whole.
It was like, ooh, while we understand what you might be trying to say, no. So I thought that was very funny. And then the group went on to make some positive corrections.
Well, yeah.
Good time.
Yes. So thank you. This is our meeting agreements. I have a prompt for us, but I also know that some folks are going to be hopping in and out. Is that correct today, Kiana? So I'm going to come back to these questions later, and I'm going to go on and get into the meat of our session. Is that okay today?
That sounds great. Yeah, because I know that a couple of people said up front that they might not be able to be here for the entire session. So, if you wanted to come back before the end, that might be helpful too.
Yep. So we'll get into the content and then we'll have time to discuss folks' projects more. So again, owning your own creative business. The purpose of this session today is for us to be versed in the creative business administration and with a specific focus on theater and the performing arts. And this is me here saying I'm rooting for you, and let's get rolling. So the outcomes today is you're going to leave with a business checklist, like a basic business checklist. I know that folks may be in varying levels, and we'll get into that, and it is going to be a dialogue. So if folks want to hop in and say things, but a checklist that for profit entity and a nonprofit entity, if you wanted to start up. In that folder that we shared, it has templates. So it has templates with you to move through that you may can use, like an employee handbook, a business budget, things that you can use to actually, do your business, manage your projects. And then take home self-investment and resources. So one of the things that we offer at Unlock Creative in our coaching and our signature Creative Flower Sister Circle program, which is like cohorts that run through that support Black creatives, women specifically. They go through, it's typically a month long, but it could be months long where they meet weekly. But this works for everyone, but that's just a program where we typically have it in. You can work on your own self-investment plan. It'll guide you through a wellness kit, making your own mission, thinking about your core values, your resume, bio, and then a 6-month to 5-year life map, and then talking about how you grow your network. So that's something that we do, and specifically that we have like a whole program that we do, but it's in your take-home kit. And I find it is something really nice for people to journal through. So like, even if you don't write on it, like those are prompts sometimes, and we might get to some for folks who can stay up here today. And then again, for hopefully these things will prime you to help think about your creative work as a business, because the reality, all of y'all are freelancers. You're already a business, whether you've incorporated or not, because we're like the original gig workers, performers. We gigged work before everybody gigged work. So really thinking about how these tools may be helpful to you financially to formalize your business or tax. And again, it'll be directing you for those things, but maybe to help prime your mind to move your creative, administrative business side to that next level in 2023. So your business checklist, templates, take home self-investment plan and resources, and vision. That's our outcomes today. How does that sound, folks? You can give me thumbs up, snaps, emoji, head nods. Okay, I can see some of you.
Love it.
Got you. All right. And are we good in the chat? Please feel free to vocalize the chat at any time, because I can't see it, but I can just see the number of chats, but I can't see them.
Yeah, Sierra and Jonathan, we're all with the gang. We're excited.
All right. So this is the business startup for checklist for like a LLC, so or a S corp, because one of the first thing is you will have to decide what your entity structure is. But this is for not being a nonprofit, because I'm gonna go over another checklist if you want to be a nonprofit. So for one, just laying it out, everyone on the call, let's say, have most people got a 1099 before? Probably y'all got a 1099. I can see different people.
Yes.
So in effect, you already been acting like a business, but you are taking on the liability as your person. Because you know how you read all the things and say, we're not responsible for your taxes, blah, 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 all the stuff that they're saying, you liable for everything. So you technically already are acting like a business, but most of us, if you do one thing, or for a person who maybe just do one panel for $200 a year, that's a very low risk. But because y'all actually are in theater, I imagine y'all are doing more of that probably all the time. You're probably getting multiple 1099s a year and engaging with all different kind of organizations and projects. So one of the basic simple structures, which is what my organization is, and if you probably talk to your tax person who does your taxes, will say you probably are a sole proprietor, but then you're taking on all the risk. So what we often encourage, like my team, and I work with an accountant, her name is Donna Carter and Carter Financials, and she's Black woman owned. So just after this session too, I'm plugging that. Like if y'all have questions about that, I can connect you directly with her to answer some of your business questions, and she helps set up people's entities as well. But a LLC is a simple structure. And if the only reason you do the LLC, why I tell people, is it protects you against yourself, protects you. So if someone wants to come sue me, they cannot take my house. They can sue my business, but me and my child, I have a little 7-year-old, we are protected. They're not suing me. And the point is, people can sue you for anything, like whether it's true or not, people can actually sue you. So having that protection minimum, and in most states, I have to look up y'all's, I think it's like 125 or something. It's a very minimum cost annually to at least have just the entity check set up. Like, and for folks who can't decide, like, well, what I want my name to be, what I want this, you can make it your name. Some people just have it your name, like Ashley Walden Davis LLC. So when people write you checks, you set up your business, but it is a separate, like it is where all your creative business holding, if you will, would be. So every time you are in a show or, you know, do a talk or whatever it is, they can be writing checks, and agreements can be to your business instead of to yourself. And there may be some times where you have to be the employee, because some arrangements with, depending on the work, and we won't get in all that, you may be an employee, but for the most part, y'all are probably typically and usually a 1099. And again, this would go to your business. And right now, some of you may be writing off expenses and stuff, but a lot of us don't. But by you putting everything through the business, you really do have, like, this is all associated with me as a creative business. So setting up the entity, it'll be links that you can go to your site, your Michigan, usually Secretary of State, and it really is like a 5-minute process. Sometimes we've made it very, we've made it like it's a big thing, but to actually do it is a short process, and because everything is online now. So it's literally, it just, you put in your information, what your name is, and most states is between 1 to 3 weeks to respond to you typically. During COVID, it was a little bit more because I guess, you know, people were just behind, because you could go and do it in person too, I think, depending on where you live. But most people just do it online and they email you back. And if there was a mistake in your paperwork, they give you like 30 days to correct it typically. And you just call them and you be on the phone with them and all that. I will also say there are places you can pay to do it for you. What I will say, just because you pay someone to do it don't always mean it's right. I've paid for one of my companies that was a more complicated company, and the first time it got rejected too. So they still had to go back and like fix stuff. So I just want to say that, because if you Google like LegalZoom, whatever, there are companies where you pay more. So let's say it's $150, they'll charge you $350 and they'll do everything for you, but you probably could have just did it on the website yourself. So I'm just giving you those like pro tips. You will see that when you go to like type in like just formulate your LLC, it'll be a bunch of business saying that they will do it for you for that extra couple $100. So you want to pick your name of what your entity is going to be. The name can be changed, and in Georgia, it's like $10 to change the name. What I'll say is, you don't want to be changing the name all the time, because then that means you'll have to change all the stuff you set up in the name when you do that. But also don't think you have to go crazy over the name. But what you'll do is when you register the name, many times they make you have a name, you have to have alternates, or you check if your name is there, because if it's a business with your similar name, they won't let you have it. So you can be like rejected for that. So like I have one group, they're like the Artisan Company, but because it was another company, Artisan, like that was spelled with like an S, theirs is spelled with a Z, it was too close. So they had to add like entertainment or something like that on their name. But you can do a search on your state's website for whatever name you're thinking of to see if it's a business with close to your name. And again, that may be something that, let's say you submitted, that they may quote unquote reject you on, but they'll tell you why, and then you might have to pick another name. So it's always good to have another name, like a couple names for your business that you're okay with, just to prepare for that. So I know I'm walking through, so I'll just pause for a moment to see how we're doing and if there are any questions. Y'all can let me know in the chat what's going on.
So I do have a question, kind of personal to my own business ventures. What would be your suggestion? Multiple businesses, so separate LLCs or running underneath one, but the businesses are not necessarily related to each other.
So what you can do, and this will be a great conversation, and Donna and I work with clients on this all the time to see what the businesses are, to see if you have a parent company with sub companies or if they should be separate. So you would want someone to look at like what each of the industries are. And then also one of the big questions, and this is why this part is really good for accounting, is like, what you're trying to do, how you want the money to flow to each other, how do you want them to talk to each other? So it's not a general answer. It would be based on like what your other goals. So for example, my entities are all separate. And at first Donna was like, you don't want to put your nonprofit under your for-profit. But at the time I had a business partner. I did it because I had a business partner. So I specifically had reasons I wanted it to be separate. And one day I want those entities to go off and live one day, for example, maybe without me, but I want my LLC to always be mine. So I didn't want mine to be together for other reasons. So I feel like that's going to depend on what the goal and motivation and like potential tax implications. So that is a real question that you will want to get with the accountant. And if, again, follow up with me, I can connect you. A lot of times she don't even charge. She'll answer like that question for you. She gives a lot of free advice, and her heart is for our community. So she gives real affordable, no nonsense feedback, so then help guide you.
That makes perfect sense. Thank you.
Other questions, comments?
I would like to mention to the group, you also, as you doing the work that you do, can create a business just off of your own work. So this isn't necessarily, it does not have to be a business in the sense of, I'm providing some services or products. You as an actor, you as a director, you as a writer, all of this still applies to that, because you can then go and, if you get payments for your roles, you can get those paid through your business as opposed to an individual. So those of you that are artists and performers in the group that specifically stay in those areas, this also is for you, because you can take that practice and turn it into a business if you'd like.
And that's why I did say the part about it could just be your name. Like it can just be your name, LLC. Like if you are like a performer and want to keep it that way. Okay, are there any more questions or comments in the chat? I saw Joycelyn, yeah, you put the information in. Yep, perfect, great, got you. Great chat monitor, yes, she doing it. So then you check your, so then moving forward, you check the name, you register with your Secretary of State, you like go and do it, you get the, you get back that you're approved, you get your articles of corporation, or if you need to make edits. And I will tell you, I always like to say that because like no one told me that. It's like, if it get rejected, it's not a big deal. One time I had to do 3 times. It literally for like periods, because depending on who the controller is, sometimes they were just very picky about like where the LLC period was. And like one found something that another one did. So it was like I did it 3 times, but it wasn't nothing major. It was literally like, and I had to call, I'm like, what are y'all saying? It was like literally put the period behind the LLC. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't know what y'all was saying when y'all sent me the letter back. So sometimes just calling your civil servant person if you get a rejection the first time, so you understand what the edit that they're asking for. Because sometimes it could be like super minor like that, but the way they write it, it won't be clear. So then, depending on where you are locally, this is where it's dicey. So I'm gonna tell you the things like, oh, you should do this. Some people never get local permits. I'm kind of a rule follower. So, and if you're really an actor and you would be a home-based business, probably like you would be home-based, like you don't have a place. Like if you're a performer, I'm speaking to the people who like are performer or me. So no one, it's not like people were in and out of your house. Cause I actually had called my local one time. I was like, well, how do y'all know if somebody don't get a permit? And they were like, well, how we usually find out is neighbors call us down here and be like, people been coming in and out. Did this person got a business? So people tell on people. That's how people get in penalty if they don't have a local permit. But every place is different. So like I live in Cobb County in Georgia, and you do supposed to have a permit. So I just go and do the permit for a home-based business. And it's like a home-based business without customers, right? Like I don't have customers come to my house or anything, but I have it registered. And of course, for someone who actually will have a building and performance or whatever, your permit would be different. Or, you know, if you sell alcohol, all those kind of things, but you just want to go wherever your local, like, and find out what that information is, because it really do vary by little locality, like where you literally live. Like this town might have this and this town might have that. So you just want to go check it. And then a registered agent. Some places require you to have a registered agent. I have one online. You can put it as yourself. Sometimes it's supposed to be like a place where it can always be served. And I have one, but I know a lot of people that don't have one. And all my businesses don't. And one of my businesses is the Lloyd law firm who like put it together for me. One of my businesses is myself, and one of them is like a former registered agent. So that is going to be like an option for you. Like I said, when I work with Donna, she always just puts the person as the registered agent. So I feel like it's one of those older things that exist. There's like another way to get money because you can put yourself as it. But it's supposed to be like you technically can always be served from 9 to 5, which I don't know who getting served like that, but that's like a thing. So once you get your articles of corporation and it is official, like you're officially an entity in your state, then you just go to the IRS website. This literally takes 5 minutes and you get your EIN. This is basically your business social security number. And it's very quick, but the reason you want to wait until your official business approved, because you want to make sure it's the correct name. So, because you technically could just go do this, but if it's not the correct name, you wouldn't want to do it because that's a headache. So you want to make sure that your state has told you, yes, this is the name of your business, and then you do the EIN, and it comes to you right then as a PDF. You do it online, and then that is your number from now on. Then you're available to set up a bank account for your business. And this, I do always encourage that you set up a business bank account to keep it separate. And even if you're a person already who are just doing a sole proprietorship, I still encourage you to have a business bank account so you can keep those expenses separate. It'll be easier for you to manage it from your own personal groceries or the costumes you were buying. So a bank account typically is between $50 and $100 you have to have. And if you already have a relationship with a bank, it tends to be a lot easier. So I already bank with Bank of America, so they gave me a business bank account like super easy and a credit card. Like they gave me both at the same time. So depending on what your relationship is, if you have one, I always tell people, well, that's a great place to start. I mean, if you hate your bank, then you may want to do research on other ones, but that's the typical range. And what you always want to look at is the fees. Some banks have a whole lot of fees, and most of us starting out just don't have money to give a bank. So you probably want to pick one who have low fees. Like if you have a direct deposit every month, maybe they don't charge you or it's $10, but those are the things you want to look out for. And that's why if you're going with someone you already bank with, most times it's a relationship you're already okay with. So it tends to go faster, but you will need the previous information we talked about to set up your bank account. So you'll need the EIN and you'll need the articles of incorporation. And typically what the bank will do, like when you go inside the bank, they will check the database for your state and see if your business is in there. So even though you're supposed to take the paper, they like cross check to make sure your business is really a business. I'll pause there. So those are you basic setup. You got your business, you got your paperwork so you can go do business things, and you have a bank account. You like you're there. You got the basic things you need. Questions, comments?
I'm sorry, I would use the chat, but my phone will cut me off.
Oh yeah, vocalize.
I have a question. This is excellent, by the way. So under the parent company, the entertainment company, I have an administrative arm, a makeup artistry arm, and then eventually a talent agent arm. Can they all use the same bank account, or do I need to do separate bank accounts and separate EINs? Because as you had mentioned before, the sub businesses, I guess those would be the doing business as. But if I'm doing a contract with someone, I'd rather have them funnel that through the parent company and then put the money where it needs to go and expense those items under the proper doing business as, or am I way off with that?
Okay, so I want to clarify because we use the term. So when I literally said parent company, is people who have a business, a LLC, and they have like another type of entity. So just clarify for me, are those other things like different departments or projects, or have you set up separate entities for those things?
Okay, long story short, when I was in New York, I had it was a mobile beauty spa. Now that I'm back in Michigan, it's going to incorporate more administrative, but dedicated towards the arts. So I have to restructure my executive summary. So the parent company will be the entertainment company, and under that will be the makeup artistry, the music management or entertainment management, the administrative support, that type of thing.
Yes, hold on one sec. My son is in here. Can y'all hear his music in the background? Okay, cool. So what I'm trying to figure out, because it's two things, is are you trying to keep that actual entity you have set up? Like, are you trying to keep that entity or move it all to the Michigan business?
I'm moving everything to the Michigan business because I'm not going back to New York State other than to visit. I will be based out of Grand Rapids. So I have to start from scratch, correct?
Well, you have options. You technically could, but yes, New York is way more expensive, so I probably wouldn't be the most advantageous thing. You can register business as like a foreign entity, like doing business in another state. But New York has so many like taxes and stuff. That's probably not that wouldn't probably be like the most advantageous thing to you because you're going to a cheaper state. So you definitely gonna want to talk to an accountant. The question that comes up for your particular one is when you form your first business or the business in Michigan, the type of business it is.
Yes.
The only question is like, are you going to be like doing people's hair and makeup because the different types, I don't know if y'all know the inset codes or when it asks the type of business, that is often when you need a different entity. So like if I'm just using extremes. If I'm a liquor store and I'm a actor artist, those aren't the same type of businesses. But being a creative entity, if you're consulting on beauty, whatever, then that could fall into it. So
yes, absolutely. So doing workshops, and due to the fact that I'm not renewing my esthetician license in Michigan, I'm just going to be doing workshop types.
That is something that definitely could be under the same, just one. It could be one, because this is the thing. Sometimes we get caught up in brands. So like, I'll use Unlock Creative, my company. Unlock Creative is the coaching and management solutions, like where we write the check is the company. I have all different kind of like departments and programs and projects we run, but each one of them aren't their own business. They're just like program projects, revenue streams, products and services. So the way it sounds like yours would be multiple revenue streams all under this one business of creative, whatever we call it, but they can still have their own name. So like some people just know my Creative Flower Sister Circle. Like that's just what they know about, but it's not its own thing. But when someone pay, your receipt say Unlock Creative. When someone want to write a check for it, it's Unlock Creative, but they just know that program.
Perfect. Thank you for the clarity.
Yeah. And what I do want to say though, just to go back, different people for different things, because it usually have to do with money. what you talked about, like if you talk to accountant and depended on your other reasons, maybe each one of them need to be a business, right? Like if you really was going to set up a spa, like a spa with people coming in, whatever, that probably would have had to have its own, because it's different regulations and permit, you know what I mean? It's like different.
Yes.
It's a different like business. So that is where it can, if you ever have a question about it that can get hairy, asking an accountant, but you also can call again your state. Like when you set up and see those categories, like it's like manufacturing, professional, blah, blah, blah. You'll see the different categories. And if your
Right.
business probably fall in like multiple, like landscaping and food, you might need different. You might need different, like you need to like figure that out. And then we definitely going to go to insurance too, because I know
Okay.
that came up somewhere, but we're going to get to insurance. But anyway, Joycelyn, is it Jocelyn, Joycelyn?
It's Jocelyn, but it's okay.
Okay.
You can put Joy in there. I'm good with that. That's fine. You said that we're gonna get to insurance, so that was just in the chat from Sierra, so I just want to make sure that I got it. But it's also like at the bottom it says workers, like workman's comp insurance, so I figured that we would talk. Hi. I figured that.
That's my assistant. That's the CEO of Unlock Creative Junior.
So I did have a question kind of piggybacking off of the conversation with Demita. So in a situation like that where let's just go with Unlock Creative, do you have different accounts? Do you separate your banking based off of where the money is coming from, or
That's
would
in my bookkeeping. So how we set up QuickBooks and with accounting, I have different line. Mine, and I'll use mine. So like I have consulting, and then the different types of consulting I do. So like executive search, operations, whatever, job, whatever my things are. Then I have like events. And like technically like the Creative Flower Sister Circle is kind of like an event, like in person, so that is showing up when I'm getting my reporting. That's why having a tool, which I'm kind of skipping a little bit, but it goes to, we've really talked through it. What's your products and services? So for one, when you set up your products and services, when you set up your budget, those products and services, how much it costs to execute them, and the revenue that you're thinking, those are going to show up in your products and services, your business plan, and then your financial tool. QuickBooks is the basic. I'm kind of a person with like, just to know, I'm like a tried and true. All accountants know how to use QuickBooks. I know people who like to use the new stuff. FreshBooks, all the things. I use the thing that most people can use. I don't always try to use the thing that people don't know. So you can use whatever you want to use, but those tools all kind of do it. But if you have a bookkeeper or accountant, I would say you need an accountant. So if you're probably starting off, you can have an accountant, and that accountant probably only would have to do y'all's books quarterly. Everything would go through it and it would be there, and they would reconcile it, and they would help you set up those line items and track your money, so you can understand, like, I made the most of my money, acting. This is where all that's there. Or like if you have merch or whatever, and you use like a PayPal or a Square, and you do those transactions, all of that will be in there, and they will reconcile that for you, so you can see it spit back out in a report. So you can have one bank account, but it's being managed through that tool. That tool does that. Those tools are made for that because they're accounting tools.
Yeah, I think that's that kind of speaks to what it was that I was wondering, is because we as Ebony Road players, we operate that way too. I was just wondering if there's a benefit to operating through separate accounts to keep money separate, but if you are running with like a QuickBooks, and QuickBooks is super simple, I second your plug there, because the other thing that I like about it is it's tiered to kind of cover the different types of businesses or the amount of business that you do. But anyway, so I guess that makes sense too, to have it separate, just separated in your accounting system.
What I will say, and because this, I'm not an accountant, this is giving you basic things, tools from a creative point of view. There are reasons, like you can go Google things that people be like, get multiple accounts and you dump this money in this account, you do like, it's all kind of reasons why people have all kind of things. For like safety and compliance, I will say when you get more money than is insured, that's when you really need bank accounts. Or sometimes people have reserve accounts and people have operating accounts. But again, that's as you grow. Since we're on the basic, but hey, y'all gonna blow up quick. Having those different ones and having your money in different banks and diversifying. Like when I run my old organization, if you have more money than that's insured in account, you need to move some, because that means if something happened, it's not insured. But at this stage, most people are not at that place. And there is like the co-op, because we needed a bank black, right? I have a black bank, girl. That bank charged me so many fees. So I have Bank of America too. So sometimes it's like, even I have that because it's like an alignment with our mission. We're a black bank, but that bank charged so many fees that I can't, like, I'm like, so sometimes it's like you use your services for different things, but it's like, do it make sense? Those kind of reasons. But I feel like for most of us where we are, I see y'all laugh, but it is true. I'm like, oh, I love y'all, but all y'all doing taking my money every month. Really, y'all just taking my money. But so those are some other reasons. And I will say, I think the last thing to speak to, I think if you have partnership or people maybe who have multiple people in their business, having multiple bank accounts may serve them sometimes. So if one person is mainly over one part of the business, or like you said, it can be ways to do that, but I don't know that that's a good way to just have another account. But I know people do that because of that as well. Like they're in partnerships or have a business with multiple people. So they have their different lines of income go to different bank accounts, that where that lead principal is generating that income goes in that way. So, but again, if you're accountant and when you do your accounting at the end of the year, it's all one business money. So it all is going to have to be managed properly together and accounted for when you do your taxes at the end of the year. Which, speaking of, so if you are LLC, and this is one of the things we encourage, being an LLC and then opting to do an S Corp election. And again, you will talk to this to your accountant. What that means is the business that runs through, you actually do taxes for your own business. So Jenny Lane LLC, her acting, she does her taxes for that LLC. But then the money she made spits out a K-9, but let's say she made $12,000 this year. That's what she files on her personal taxes. So Jeannie Lane, the person, does her tax, and then her entity does their taxes separate. And a lot of people who are sole proprietors, and maybe how you've operated, you're just doing everything on one tax return. But again, that's that separation for me and that distinction. This is my business. These are my business taxes. This is my personal taxes. This is my personal taxes. And I'm using that also when I'm potentially doing other things like buying a car, buying a house. I'm using my personal tax, not my business tax. But at the same time, I'm using my business tax when I'm doing things for my business, like getting loans or whatever. I have those things separate. And then one thing that's not on this checklist, but it's relevant here, is I put myself on payroll. So I partner with a company like JustWorks where we have co-employer, and I have myself on a payroll. So for example, when I want to do things like, how you got to do your student loans or whatever. And when you're your own business, all that stuff is hard. Like, when you just have a business, people don't understand how that works. So if I can just like, this my W-2, these are my pay stubs, it kind of makes life easier for me that I still get to function like an employee. And when I need to go out in the world and like get regular things, if anybody know having business taxes trying to do that, it's always difficult. Like it's either they're estimating your income too low or too high because they're looking at the whole, but you're like, but I didn't make all that. I expensed it. Like it's just a whole bunch versus like, this is my income. You understand a W-2, a W-4, you understand a pay stub. Here's my pay stub. So that's just kind of potential future, just to seed in your mind, because we've gotten down this money rabbit hole.
Well, that was perfect actually, because that was going to be my next question about separating. So if you are trying to use the income that you get through the business, mainly for like loans and stuff, especially for, independent contractors, you don't have income to show. So sometimes that's super important. I was wondering if is there a way to do payroll without contracting a payroll company?
Yeah, and QuickBooks actually do it. You can do QuickBooks have a feature. It's a higher tier than the self-employed tier, but if you do that election and set it up, you can. So you can put yourself on payroll, just you. What I will say, some of the services, well, they get better and better. So like every year, even from last year to this year, all these services get better. So I have a co-employer. I won't get too detailed, but my W-9 actually says our W-2 says Just Works on it, because they actually are partner with my organization as an employer. That's different from like ADP or a service that's just processing your payment. But I use them, and this is just a tip for when you're growing your company. What they do is they have other services that you can opt onto as a small business that you can't get to yourself. So like short-term disability, long-term disability, whatever, you're a conglomerate. So Just Works is basically like a parent company, and they're approved IRS co-employment agency. Hundreds of businesses are under them, but because we all together, now we get access like a major company gets to stuff that we can't. And again, this may be down the road for some of you, but the access to this is way lower now. Like years ago when Just Work started, you used to have so much money and all this to be started. Now they do monthly. You pay monthly. So I pay like $50 or $20 an employee to use these services. So if you think about it, that's nothing now compared to like what it used to be. So this is a great time to actually start a business, because so many more tools are out to help you if you ever did it before and was like, this is too much. It's so many more tools now who've made things like streamlined and quick, and like a QuickBooks and PayPal, they offer everything. Like if you partner with one of them, PayPal do credit cards, PayPal do loans, PayPal got checking accounts. A lot of these different entities have put everything in their company to make it easier for business owners to like use and like have a one-stop shop to manage your business. Okay, we've been getting into it. Questions, comments?
What is Just Works? What type of business is that called? What did you call that?
They're a co-employer.
Employer. Thank you.
And like a ADP, you know how most people have used ADP. Well, the funny thing is they're a co-employer now, but most people know them as just a payment processor. Like they just process your payment, like do your paycheck. And Gusto too. So some of y'all may have seen Gusto, because a lot of companies use Gusto now. And Gusto, if you Google them, you can look up pros and cons of having just a payment processor to a co-employer. So like if you look up ads, Just Works and Gusto have like ads against each other. Like I'm like, why you use one or the other? So you can kind of make that, determination, or have more conversations about it. And again, all of them are going to depend on like what your goal is, right? Like for me, Just Works, I already knew them, and I'm just know I'm like an ambassador for them. So like so full disclaimer, but I became an ambassador because I really liked them. We used them at my old job, and I knew the kind of business I wanted to have and things I wanted to have for myself. And you literally just couldn't get that on your own as like a small business. And literally I tell people like, Just Works. Like I literally like have never had like a problem, with them. So anyway, not to be an ambassador, and I'm literally saying I'm an ambassador, there are billboards with me on it for them. So that's why I have to say that disclaimer, but I do like them. But Gusto, people don't have a problem with Gusto. People don't really have a problem with ADP. And again, you can do payroll yourself, but it also is a reason, Kiana, people use the services, because sometimes like to get to taxes, to go to the right place and all that, it's like worth paying the $20 a month to a service to make sure you're like doing all the withholdings and all of that. So it's just worth, technically you don't have to use the service, but it'd probably be a headache if you don't use the service. All right, I'm gonna keep going through. So some of these other tools that's here, like we touched on a business budget. I'm going to say a business operating agreement is in your template. It's literally like, how are you guiding your business? And it's a template in that folder for you. Some people don't have this. Again, some of these things are like the bonus things. Like, you don't have to have these things, but why not if you do? So for example, it says things like, if you had a partner, like if you had a partner in your business, you were a partnership, it says who get to make the final decision. Or like if something happened to one of y'all, who can do the business? And one of the great things about having an operating agreement, if something was wrong with you and you could not operate your business, if you have the operating agreement, someone else can go operate it on your behalf. If you don't have that, you typically have to wait and someone can't do anything. Like they couldn't do things for your business. So it is really good to have if you're a single member LLC. So if you have your mom, your friend, your lawyer, your whoever, so if something happened to you, they could go and do your business on your behalf, like go to your bank and all that. So I always like to have those type of tools. And so, as I told you, we can support you with identifying bookkeepers and accountants, but you definitely want to have those. You don't have to use them every month, but you do want to use them quarterly to make sure you're paying the appropriate taxes and such. And then finally, I recommend for folks like y'all and myself to have general liability. And if you become a full business with employees, you have to have workman's comp insurance. And in your folder, I give you recommendations of where you can go and get that. You can do like, for example, you could do Progressive and literally put your information in and like do a search and someone will call you for like the kind for your business. And to give you an idea, for my nonprofit, one I pay like $500 and one I pay $600 a year. So it just gives you an idea of how much general liability insurance is. And you can like pay quarterly or you can pay upfront. So that's with the general liability. And then the workman comp is for people who are employees. So if you do your payroll services, they're gonna probably have workman comp in it because it comes out per paycheck based on your employee. Your employees every paycheck. So those are the two different types of insurance. And again, this is all the things that I'm like, you should do these things and know people function and operate. And after get the LLC, people don't do a lot of that stuff. So I'm giving you like the extra. So I am going to pause there for questions, comments, and see if we need a break.
Woo! That is, I told y'all, this is gold right here. Because like I said before you joined us, it applies to so much, to anything and everything. So after our session, maybe a couple of months after, but still, I went and started one for one of my own businesses. And I will tell you, it's been almost a year. I just got my first notice to yeah, well, see, when you said a lot of people set up the LLC and then don't do any of the other stuff, I needed this today to remind me to go back and do the other stuff. But it really has made a difference. Even just I knew that I was going to start off slow and I knew that I was going to grow it slowly. But the reminders of, I have a business, this is legitimate, and I actually have to invest in it. So it was more of a sort of checks and balances for my own investment into the business itself. So fantastic. And I'm still a work in progress.
But we all are. How are folks doing? Do folks need a 2-minute break, 5-minute break? What do folks need?
So normally we take about 10 or 15 minutes at 11:30.
Oh,
I don't know what the next segment is, but we could go a little bit early if you guys want to get up and stretch, or if the next segment is 10 minutes or so, we can move on and take it at 11:30 or after.
how do folks feel? I only can see Jocelyn's face. She gave a thumbs up, but y'all are off camera, so y'all get to vocalize your opinion. Oh, Chris, I see you.
I'm good either way.
Whatever is good with the group.
All right, well, let's go to the other checklist because I'm only going to go over this. So let's do the checklist, and at 11:30, we'll take that break, 10-15-minute break. All right, so this is like the nonprofit. So now the nonprofit checklist. very similar. So I won't go into every detail. I'm going to highlight what's different. For the nonprofit, you register your entity as a state nonprofit. So whatever your state that you're going to register in. But then once you get that approved, you have to do, like when you hear people say tax exempt 501c3, that's a separate application. So you could be a state nonprofit and never did the IRS exempt nonprofit. Under 50,000, which they changed this a couple of years ago because it used to be like 250,000 or something, you can do an easy form. It's basically a much more simpler form. So, but depends if for a person who's an individual performer, this might have worked for you because you may not made over 50, like in that place. So you can do that application. So after you do the other steps of like setting up, I gave you template bylaws, and you will actually, for your nonprofit, you typically have to put your articles of incorporation. You have to actually write those out. So that versus the other one is basically a standard template for the LLC. You just put your business name in. It's a little bit more work to do the nonprofit because, and just note, a nonprofit is not your entity. It is a public entity. So I actually wouldn't be advising someone who's doing it for themselves, like to be an actor that make themselves a nonprofit, because really it should be a public entity. But maybe if you wanted to do a project or start a company that's a mission to something, because it's supposed to be for public good. So this is, you have a project, something you want to start. Alternatively, what I would be recommending is if you have a project that's literally like a legit project, was like, I want to run this summer thing every year for kids for the summer. Like, I want to do this. I actually would be recommending you to explore fiscal sponsorship. So are folks familiar with fiscal sponsorship at all? Okay, so fiscal sponsorship is when you use an organization who already have a 501c3. You use their 501c3. So they're actual companies like Fractured Atlas. So Jocelyn, you can put this in the chat, who that's their business, is that like the part of their business model is basically they make money from letting people use their 501c3. But it also could be like an organization. So like I have a foundation, I could let someone just use my 501c3 status. And their project would go under my entity. I don't do that as part of my business model, but I may do it because that person's work is aligned with my mission, right? Because they want to do a project with Black girls. I let them go under Unlock Creative Foundation, Inc. So if you really are doing a one-off and thinking about it and not funneling a lot of money through it, like when I mean like a lot, because usually the fiscal sponsors take between 5 and 10%. If it's probably less money than it will cost you to set up the infrastructure, then you should think about fiscal sponsorship. And I'll use an example. So literally one company that we work for, she had a whole bunch of stuff. We pretty much had recommended, Donna and me had recommended that she do her own 501c3. She didn't. Then she got like $2 million. She gonna have to pay her fiscal sponsor $200,000. Well, we could have had a whole team for $200,000, like way less than that, do that stuff. So that's an extreme, but it also tells you how like that don't make no sense, right? So it's like when you think about fiscal sponsorship as your project or entity grows, but maybe the first or second time, if you're unsure, right, you're like, I don't know what I want to do, using a fiscal sponsor is good, but as it grows, you will have to decide if it makes sense to have one. And there are all types that I won't get into the nitty gritty of it, but it's the alternative to you having your own 501c3 so that you can solicit grants and you can get donations. But you're like, well, but I don't want all the oversight and a board and a this and a that. You can use that. And for pretty much individual artists, fiscal sponsorship is probably a good route to go for your one project of all the things that you do to get served. So if you have an LLC that does all your stuff, but you have this one project that's for public good, you can have that one project fiscally sponsored by an organization like Fractured Atlas, or there's countless other or alternate routes like my old job. You can have them just do that one project that you can get grants and stuff for to make your life easy without just getting a whole business that you didn't want. So I'll pretty much pause there. And those are the significant highlights or the differences that you'll have to think about with setting up the nonprofit. And so I'm going to pause for questions before we go on break.
So I do have one about fiscal sponsorship. So does it have to be, does it have to operate in the same state that you're operating in?
No, not necessarily, because a lot of the entities that are set up as fiscal sponsors, they're like in other places, but that may affect sometimes the grant you're applying for might care. Like they might care. So that's going to be your stipulation. If you have Fractured Islands in New York, but if it says in the stipulation, it has to be a Michigan fiscal sponsor, then you would have to like navigate and think about that.
And with that, does a nonprofit have to specifically be set up as a fiscal sponsor in order to run something like that?
No, so ones that it's not their business, like me, people can borrow it. So like we could have a relationship. So there are some, let's say my creative flowers that go through my programs. They might have a program where it makes sense that I would let them be under my 501c3 for that project. But then I'm taking responsibility because you sign an agreement for that project that they're being compliant. If they get that grant or to those donors who give them money, I'm being responsible for that. So the one thing I always say, if anybody does it, have an accountant. You should not be doing it if y'all don't have an accountant. Because I do know people who do it and don't have an account. Because then again, you're mixing your money with someone else's money. So this is a great place when you ask to have another account. If you fiscally sponsor people's money, you should have another account. That's one of the, so that those people's monies are going into either a specific account. For like really big fiscal sponsors, every fiscally sponsee actually have their own account. So like the one that got the 2 million, whatever, who they're fiscally responsible for, obviously they're a huge fiscal sponsor. Every one of theirs have a separate account. Some smaller ones like Alternate Routes, they have one bank account for all their fiscal sponsees, but they don't have like that many. But you're going to have a good accountant because you're mixing people's money. Like, so that accountant is very, very important for that, like to do that if you're responsible.
I like that.
I see a question in the chat. We can either, if you want to, Sierra, when we go on the break, I can talk to you one-on-one if you want to, or I can do it off the break.
I feel like off the break because I'm like, I want to know what the answer is.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I do it off the break. So it's 11:30. So do y'all want 10 or 15? 10? Oh, okay. 11:40. Y'all want Central Time or Eastern Time?
Eastern.
Eastern. Okay. 11:40. And I'm gonna pause the recording.
This is such great information. And so we will have the full recording for you guys to refer back to. I'm going to probably put it onto our private YouTube channel. That way you guys can go back to it as needed, instead of just a one-time watch. So I did want to, is everybody back? Can we check in again?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Sierra back. Jocelyn. And I know that Jonathan said he had to step away. But so we will, I want to dig a little bit deeper into fiscal sponsorship before we continue with the rest of the content. So the reason why I wanted to dig a little bit deeper is because what we've kind of built into Visionary Academy is our visionaries have the opportunity to pitch to us their projects at the end of Visionary Academy. And then we have the budget to actually financially invest in them into their individual projects, as well as provide them additional resources. So with that, I'm seeing it a possibility, and it doesn't necessarily have to be, but depending on how large the project is in the end, it could fall under something like a fiscal sponsorship. It doesn't necessarily have to, but I think about, I met with Sierra this week talking about her overall project. And it does sound like a larger project that Ebony Road players could operate as a parent on. So thinking about your projects, depending on the size of them and the scope, and also is it something that you would like to do more than once? It could be something that we could sort of partner with, as opposed to just making a one-time investment. So I wanted to kind of use that and let you guys apply that back to the projects that you already have in mind. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Awesome.
So Kiana, have y'all talked about as an organization that y'all do want to be a fiscal sponsor, or is that up under your like purview of work?
So it's we've seen opportunities where it could be a thing. It's not something that we've done yet. But it is something, especially with Visionary Academy and its growth. It definitely sounds like something that makes a little bit more sense than just one-time scholarships, because we've kind of operated through a more of a scholarship type structure of, okay, so we will give you, X amount of dollars to help you bring this to life. Whereas so the project that Sierra is considering is kind of long-term, and the scope is a little bit bigger than I think a one-time investment would be beneficial for. So again, this is because it's still so new. I think this is kind of in development, but listening to it now, and I do remember this portion last year and it kind of being sparked, but in listening to their, ideas for projects, it makes it make more sense this year, this time around.
Well, definitely. Oh, did you want to come off? Did you want to say something? Was someone coming off mute to talk?
I think she went back on mute.
Oh, but you are welcome.
How come my face doesn't show? I wasn't really. I think what I was.
Your face is on now. We can see you.
You guys
Yeah.
can.
Yeah. Hey, girl.
Yeah.
I'm back
Hey.
on the road, so thank you. I think that's what what is very. I don't want to use the word intriguing, but I think that's what gives me comfort in knowing, because we all have our own dreams and things like that. But I'm such a collaborator, but I still wanted to eventually have something that belongs to me, you know what I'm saying? Because I've been working for and other people for so long, and I just really believe, like, God gave me this gift, but I understand the concept of you have to connect with people who are further along than you are and get the knowledge and because again, I know what it is to be on stage, but to do this business thing is a horse of another color. It's a whole different beast, and you have to approach it. It's humbling, you know what I mean, to look at it from a different lens. And so, I'm grateful for just the people who have come on and shared their expertise, because I want to be that person, eventually, as opposed to being the student or I've been the teacher in the classroom, but having a business, it's intimidating. It can be very intimidating.
But you got this in one step at a time, just like everything else, one step by step. And like you said, there's so many resources to support.
Yeah. Okay, I'm going back. We're going back over
What
here.
I put in the chat
Right.
for you, Kiana, was that y'all are more than likely looking at Model C, but as an organization who is interested in even dipping in your feet, I put you a resource, a network of fiscal sponsors, all different types, but more or less for what we do and with artists that's typical is going to be that Model C, which is more like pass through. So it definitely, what you're talking about, like in connection to your program, this is kind of how I alternate routes, the organization I used to work for, and they're a service organization, y'all, that serve artists, activists in the South. So like they don't fiscally sponsor anything. They only fiscally sponsor work that's in alignment with their mission. So like it doesn't seem like Ebony Road Player is not just trying to be a fiscal sponsor. They want to fiscally sponsor things that's in alignment with their work. So it would be fewer and then also like less to manage. And so it would be so how that typically works, it could be a pass through. So let's say if y'all gave $5,000 and $25,000 spurts, they would disperse it to the artist. The artist would keep record of all those receipts and everything. You would turn the information back to Ebony Road Players and they would have it in their books. So for you, it would not show up as income. And just as a note, for any of y'all that fiscally sponsor, something that's commonly done wrong because if you work with tax people who aren't used to working with nonprofits and fiscal sponsors, you be double taxed. So like we found our folks money, literally like one of our folks like over $40,000 because they basically double tax their money. They paid tax on it, but they had got it from the fiscal. That's the whole point of having a fiscal sponsor because you're having tax exempt money. But again, if you're not working with people who know, like, no, you don't know to back that money out your income. And I also, the other piece I want to say is like, even in my ecosystem, so I have 3 entities of my own, but then I have 2 of them have fiscal sponsors so that you can have both. It's not exclusive because all of them are tools to do what you need to do. So sometimes you can have your own 501c3, but for a certain grant opportunity, you might not meet the requirements. So you still may need to use someone else's 501c3. So like if it says the organization has to be 750,000 or more, and if we're not, that's why I keep access to my other, basically they're just tools that you can be able to move money and accept money. I mean, that's what it really, that's what it is. It's like how you can move money around and be ready when people say, I got a grant for you, I got a donation, I got a whatever, you're able to accept that money in a way that's beneficial for them. Because when people want to give you a donation, they want their tax write-off.
And donations in I don't know if this is accurate or not, but the way that I always understood is donations can only be funneled through nonprofits.
Exactly. So that's why, for example, with a project, let's say if someone wanted to do a summer project and they wanted to, well, they were primarily financing it through their LLC or their sole proprietorship, they want donations, they could partner, like, or we can use one of y'all. Y'all would take all the donations for that project and then y'all would back out any fee y'all take for it. And just for artists to know, the reason the fee is there is because it's the administrative fee. You're using the administration of that entity. So for their accountant to give you the reports and do all the things, it's like basically taking the percentage from the amount that you run through their entity to do it. And what I will note, y'all won't need this, but when I say it's a Model C fiscal sponsor, this is what we call pass-through. There are different models. So like that company I was telling you that had got to 2 million or whatever, they're with a fiscal sponsor that's a Model A. That company does everything for them. Like the employees are employees, but they're way more, it's basically like, if you think about a university and you have a department, Model A is really like, my company going up under one of those big fiscal sponsors, I'm getting everything that their companies get, but I'm paying them like 10% though. But I'm using all of their stuff. So I'm using their medical benefits. I'm basically just becoming a department of their like entity. But those are for typically much developed programs and also much bigger fiscal sponsors. Because for a small one, that wouldn't even make sense. They might don't even have employees. So it wouldn't make sense to be paying that big of a percentage on your money. But again, different entities do this for different reasons based on their just their motivation. Because like in my mind, I never can understand Model A. Like I don't understand why you do that, but I also do operations. So I wouldn't pay, because you still have to man, even though that company does it, it's a level of management, whoever the fiscal sponsee has to do. So in my mind, that never works. But obviously people do it. It's a whole industry. People find that they want to pay another entity to, you know, administer and do those types of things. So I did just want to bring that in the conversation. So when you hear it, because you might start hearing it more, you know how like when you learn something and then you hear about it, then you'll like know to ask more questions about that. So Kiana, does that kind of like get to what you wanted us to dig into a little bit
Yeah,
more? And we can
absolutely.
always follow up one-on-one about that. Like I have a fiscal sponsor. It's not in that packet because it's not something they would use like a template fiscal sponsor handbook, because it's certain like rules and regulations. So I have certain stuff that if you want to ping me offline for Ebony role players that I could share with you.
Okay. That sounds good. Because like I said, I'm just, I'm constantly in administrative mode. So not only am I sitting here learning for myself, I'm also taking some of this stuff back to the business itself, because although we are going into our 9th year, there's still some things that this little nonprofit is still working through. And that, that touches back on your note to Cece is little steps. None of this stuff has to be done all at once. And then the reason why we built out Visionary Academy the way that we did is because theater is a business. Creativity is a business, and you can go and you can learn, how to perform. You can learn to be a stage manager. You can learn whatever it is that you want to learn. There are resources out there. We wanted to create a program that tells you how to use it, right? Because there's a very big difference between receiving the information and being able to apply the information. So this entire program is around how can you take this information and actually apply it to your own practice or to your own business or to your own project.
I think too, what excites me about just this whole prospect is, I was a part of a cohort, a for-profit cohort, and we had different product-based businesses and service-based businesses, but it gets convoluted when it's not specific to what we know as the theater industry as a service-based business, because other people, I mean, you can turn it into product-based, but it's a whole different, and I was confused literally, because I'm like, I understand, but there was not that much information
To
for
apply
us.
it to your time. And that's exactly why we exist.
Yeah,
Let's say that's
this
why
is
Allah
the
exists.
I need. Yes, I love it. Yeah, thank you guys.
Yeah, and I was gonna say, so my background in the arts administration, even the company, like one reason the company exists is because it's like creators are out there being creative, but when sometimes they go get like help from a like a accountant that don't know, like the fact that accountant shouldn't let a person be being double taxed, but they just don't. This isn't their realm. So sometimes it's like we go get those services, but how do we translate it for the creative sector? So even not to go down a rabbit hole, but like human resources, like, yeah, people know how to do human resources, but literally people like change and get naked in front of each other. Like it's just some violent, like it's certain things that's built into the culture that's completely different. That's like you go take an HR class, it's like, well, that HR class isn't totally like how people look, is how people get, like it's like you have to take it, but then how it applies to our industry is like a very particular like way. Like literally, technically, we kind of discriminate. Like we literally cast based on appearance. That is like how people get jobs, which clearly is like not in the other. So those kind of things is like you have to adjust. It's like, yeah, and how do you adjust it to our field?
Our field, exactly.
We're running into that right now with, one with accounting, small nonprofit creative. right? In our account, we're constantly running into, yep, that's not how, that's the service that you provide to your other clients is not helping us the way that we need it to be. Because we can send out one check and it can be 5 different things, and if it's not constant communication with us, our accounts are being, just they're a mess anyway. And we're also running into that with marketing is, yeah, that's great. And I know that that works with product-based businesses. And I know that that works with, however, being a small Black nonprofit creative, yeah, we're going to need some things that are really tailored to that specific type of business because, and another reason why we created this program the way that we did is not only is it just specific to the types of businesses that we run, it is specific to being Black and operating in those businesses, because what you do to reach the masses in Grand Rapids, Michigan, that ain't gonna reach the people that I'm trying to reach. So I need something that's really tailored to my specific program and business and product. And so these types of spaces are super important because it does give us a safe space to talk about these things. I think about when we were with DeWandra and talking about our hair and our makeup and those things. Like, this is a conversation that while it can be had on some levels in any space, these specifics, we come here, we are providing this space to get as specific as possible on our businesses and our needs. So I appreciate all of you guys for showing up, and that's just my little PSA, and I will turn it back over.
No, this is perfect. So really, I want to just hold space if there were any other questions people have, because then we move kind of to sharing from y'all. So I just wanted to leave this up and we kind of dug in the LLC a lot, but were there any other outstanding questions that came up about the nonprofit? Like if you were starting your own nonprofit? So then our next slide was about you. So I wanted to, for folks, I know some people can talk more than others, but if we want to take 5 minutes and then so DJ, your music will be awesome. I'll stop my share as soon as I'll get these questions. But to respond to these questions, if you want to take like 5 minutes, is like, what type of creative business are you interested in? What are your income goals? And you can answer as much of this or not as much, like where you are. What's your timeline for achieving the goal? So it's like, I want to start my business in January or in 2 years or whatever. And then thinking about from what you learned today and what you've already been learning over this academy, what steps would you take? So those are the questions that I wanted you to take about 5 minutes and respond to. So I can put 5 minutes on the timer and we can get some music going, and I will stop my share and I'll put it in the chat though. Oh, you just played your music. Chris, you just unmuted yourself and played your music, right? Or who was it? Was it Jonathan? Chris, it was Chris. Oh yes, I can still screen share for you. There you go. Thank you so much.
All right, it looks like we have about 1 minute left.
You want to bring your writing to a close and finish up your thoughts? Thank you. Is there anyone that would like to share first? What you are open and willing to share? Oh, my video isn't on.
I can share.
Awesome. Hi, Sierra. Nice to see you.
Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you good. And you don't have
Okay.
to look at us if you're driving.
Oh, okay. So you may have to remind me of the questions, but I know the first one was what type of creative business.
Yeah.
I realized that I need to do more like inner work to decide if I want to do like for-profit versus nonprofit. But just in general, I would love to have my own aerial arts studio. I would love to find a way to combine, art and athleticism, have it be circusy, do some shows. Not really a professional company though, because I want to keep it strictly within theater. And here's a pumpkin spice latte. Thank you. And here's that lemon block tea. Thank you. I'm sorry. I have been running around this city since 7 a.m. today. This is my first little bit of
Take care of
caffeine. I'm
yourself.
so sorry.
Take care of yourself.
And as far as, when I want to achieve these goals, thank you. As far as when I want to achieve these goals and like what my income might be, I do aerial arts and I teach aerial arts because I love it. And so the way I've been operating so far is just as long as y'all can cover, that $2,000 insurance, like that's really all I need to be happy. If I have a space and I have equipment, like I don't really need much else. So as far as, when I want to achieve this goal, for now, I want to use like my visionary project to maybe test the waters and see, is this something that I could manage on my own on a small scale? Could it scale in the future? So right now I'm really just thinking short term. And if you had any advice on how to maybe move my thinking beyond short term, I think maybe that would kind of help where I am right now.
Well, I just want to first say you don't have to choose for-profit or nonprofit. Those entity types, I mean, even the name, non-for-profit businesses are still built businesses. There are multi-billion-dollar nonprofit businesses. Just want to say, but they're entity types to help you funnel money. If you think about like what kind of money you can funnel and do. So it does not have to be exclusive. So I would encourage you folks to just hone in on what you want to do and dream, all of you, on how your art can be your primary mode of income. Not that you have to do something else, but that it is your primary mode of income and it covers your life's needs and goals. And in that packet is that self-investment plan I talked about. We'll kind of walk you through to ground you to get to like, what is my mission? What are my values? What keeps you well? Because one of our approaches that is different from sometimes going to our regular quote unquote business coach, there are a lot of people out here got amazing jobs and whatever, and they miserable because it's misaligned with their values. So what we want to do is that what you're doing, and probably because you're doing something creative, that it's that how you're making money is aligned with your values and how you're well. So I will say those are some just next steps for you, but for everyone, and reach out and get support to companies like my company that offer coaching to walk you through, mentors, and we can recommend you other folks to have these conversations, to be accountability partners, to let you not give up on your dream. Because some people, all I am is their accountability partner. Like, did you do the thing you told me you wanted to do last week? Did you do that thing? So, yes, thank you, Sierra. I hope that was helpful.
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Who would like to share?
Oh, I because I don't want to say I gave up on my dream, but you know, it just stuff happens. When we talked to me, I think me and Kiana talked about this before about, you know, I'm in insurance right now and she was in insurance before. And up until this point, I've really just been kind of working to survive. And somehow or another, you know how you get writer's block, is that creative block that, and I think, I don't know, I'm sure you got, everybody loved Tabitha Brown. And she said like a regular 9 to 5 can rob you of your creativity. And, you know, somehow or another, over the last couple of years, it seemed to have done that. But also over this last year, I was intentional with trying to educate myself beyond what I learned in college, you know, really getting around businesses and business minded people to say, okay, you know, again, I know that all of this education can't be in vain. You know what I'm saying? It can't just be, you know, me having a master's degree in playwriting and African American literature, but then how do I monetize on that? Because I do want this to be my primary goal, because I mean, this is a dream that started since I was young and I've gotten the education. Now it's like, okay, life happened. How do I make this my life's mission and my life's goal and create this? So basically my business is called Memoirs Theater Alliance. And it's basically, you know, trying to, well, my goal is to help people, will help aspiring writers. I don't want to be that minimalistic, but help aspiring writers engage themselves or find their voice and turn, you know, because I'm a storyteller. So it's, you know, help them find their voice, put their thoughts on paper, and to help structure their writing so that it can become, loan itself to the local community. I patterned my business after the New Federal Theater from, you know, way back in the 30s, where, you know, Black people were establishing their own, you know, not playwriting companies, but theater companies. And I noticed that when I was in college, you know, even I went to the same school to get my master's degree because I became a mother and it wasn't feasible for me to move to New York, you know, and my university didn't have a graduate theater program, but they did have creative writing programs. And so my goal was, okay, I've been in production after production since I've been here at Western, but we've only had maybe one or two, well, they we call them multicultural, the multicultural theater. We didn't have many shows that were for us, and they were very few and far between. So after I graduated and we started, I went to get my master's degree, then the Black community in Kalamazoo started thriving a lot. But life brought me to Grand Rapids for work. And I'm like, I can't just exist in this town. I got to figure out how I fit in this creative space or find my creative niche in my community. And so I worked with Ebony role players for a while when I first got here. And then again, started parenting because my son was about to graduate high school, and now he's about to graduate college, and I'm ready to do me, if that makes sense, and just to educate myself and to get engrossed in the community. So financially, that's where I'm lacking in terms of how to how do I market myself? How do I establish my worth in terms of what I need to charge without, I don't want anybody to, and that's where I don't know if that's a weakness or if I'm not thinking business minded. I don't want to break anybody's bank. This is about Black people, trying to work. And I understand we sometimes can be, our own worst enemies because either we're damned if we do or we're damned if we don't. Either we're charging too much because we're in a Black community or we're not charging enough. And then we're feeling like we're selling ourselves short. So I'm wanting to mentally want to know what's reasonable. And then I want to also, I need to solidify a space. I think once I have a space, almost everything will work itself out, because the creative process in and of itself, either I need to establish myself in Grand, but I just believe the creative space in itself, I can teach somebody how to write sitting at my kitchen table or my living room table. But if I want to expand it, I need the space. So I think that's my biggest goal right now, is how to monetize, how to market. I do have a Facebook page that I started, but I need to know how to manage it, and instead of staying on my personal Facebook page, but how to manage it and to, again, find my audience. I mean, I believe that I'm doing, between 20 and even, I would say even 20 to 55, I don't know, but at least starting at like 20 years old, college students, again, people who want to contribute to the community, but don't have that space or don't have that reach to know how to structure plays. Because people always say, I have a script that I want you to write for me. I'm not going to write your script. I want you to write it, and I want to teach you how to write it, because if I write it, I'm going to want, what I'm saying, for lack of a better phrase, I'm going to figure out how to monetize on it. If I write it, then it's not my voice, it's not your voice, it becomes my voice. So that's
Have
it.
you ever taught at university? Are you interested in teaching
I
at
have,
university?
and that's actually where I am now. I'm working on my career vita. I have a couple of friends who work for Grand Valley and have been really on me about trying to join their community, their staff. So I'm working on a career vita. And like I said, I have the places and the people in place. I need to walk it and to be not afraid to let go of the sustainable. I want it to sustain itself. I have to be okay with, how am I going to monetize of it so it can monetize it so that it can take care of my livelihood. And I think that's always held me up or made me afraid. So we talked about taking risk. It's about letting go and just letting it be and relying on what I know that I can do to step into that realm and know that I'm good enough for it, and stop saying, okay, well, I know I got a steady paycheck coming this week, and I think that's what's held me up for the most part, is just walking that walk. And I'm tired of being afraid, so.
Well, what I'll say is this, what I tell a lot of my clients, most coaching clients that come to me, they already know they want to quit their job when they come to me. Most people come to me when they want to quit their job. And I always tell them, well, it's going to be sooner than you think, because you're already here. But what I
Yeah.
will say is like, no job is secure. Because what people say, and I got my secure, but ain't no job secure. Like
That's
people
true.
just laid off, or all of them just laid off like 20,000, how many other people? It's the mindset. But what I always say is, I mean, especially Black people, I mean, in Black women, I'm gonna say to Black women, not to men, we work like dogs for other people. Like literally, we work like dogs. And one just question I would pose to all of those, if you spent the time, like that you work whatever your 9 to 5, like if you invested that time in your own business, what do you think the fruits would be? And that's just what I would put with you, because we always our people, we're saying, oh, we need more education, we need more. We usually don't. We're the most, if you look at studies, we be the most educated. Like it's not, you don't need more education.
I don't need education.
You don't need education, the leap to do it. So I'm speaking that to you and everyone else on the call too, of as you think about it. And I will say, I think everyone need a coach. So I'm saying this, and I have coaches. I have coaches myself. I also have accountability partners. So let's say you're like, well, I don't want to invest in a coach right now, even though you probably could find a coach for a very minimum price or whatever. Like, but an accountability partner to lay out your plan. So I meet with other creative business leaders too, to just monthly or bi-monthly to keep us accountable, to help brainstorm and troubleshoot with. So I would encourage that for you and other people, because usually, even though it's just your friend, when you come back to that meeting, it's like you want to have that thing that you told them that you were going to have, because
That's
y'all
exactly
taking
what
it.
Yeah, and
So
that's why we're working on it, because she's like, I can get, because she's a dean, she's assistant dean of the department, and she's like, Cece, I can get you to the people. She said, I just, and you know, you already know it, you just gotta believe it.
You gotta believe,
And
yeah.
you know, and that's really just it, because I want to. I know that I thrive in the classroom, and one day, Kiana, you and I are gonna have to have lunch, because I'm gonna tell you what's has been keeping me from the classroom. It's a trauma, literally, that I've had when I've been in the classroom, is when I've gotten those phone calls that somebody passed away. So it's like it's deep rooted, and it's happened for a while, and I've had to. It's just like when I had the car accident, it took me 9 years to drive again. So it's one of those things where I'm shedding some of that, you know, that off, and understand that God's got me, and I got to do what I got to do, you know, in order for me to live joyfully, you know, and live a joyous life. So it's my own personal, but I'm shedding. But she said that, she said, Cece, I'm ready. We're ready to set you up, right? Work on that career vita, and we gonna have a meeting. So again, I believe that, you know, I've been placed in this area with other creatives and people who are beyond where I'm trying to, where I am, and can help me get to where I need to be. And that to me requires trust, you know, and that's just is what it is. It's a matter of trust, and I'm ready for that. So, you know.
Thank you so much for sharing. And again, we are definitely a resource, and you know that your community here is. I want to make sure that we get Chris. You want to go next? Do you feel, share what you want to share?
I don't really have an idea for a creative business. Probably just myself. I want to do like some acting, maybe some voiceover work, things like that. So maybe setting myself up to run a business to an LLC that way would be nice. And I'm trying to make as much money as humanly possible every month. So, and I think I'll see. And next step I'm taking is setting up my area. I got some equipment for voiceover work, some lighting to do auditions. So that's my next step.
Joycelyn, do you want to go now? I see you just went off camera, so I don't know if you want to, or you may go over to Demita.
Oh yeah, I'm good to go. I just my cats are being weird, so I had to go get them.
Oh, yeah, take care of yourself.
Okay. So okay, so answering the first question, type of creative business. To be honest, creatively, I've been really burnt out. I invested a lot of myself into other people, and their dreams, and those aren't, though, I don't know, the alignment, for me, just isn't really there. And so I think for myself, I need to, I've got some healing to do. So I'm interested in taking a break from being a creative for a bit, like at least, like, I mean, it's not going to come away from my body or anything, but like from being someone who's performing or gigging, maybe like a year would be maximum. That's a long time for me to be away from all of my people, but I need a minute, I think. And once I come back, I want to start an LLC for myself, so that I know that I'm investing in my own independence. And I want to do like branding with a logo, and like photography and stuff like that. And what's this? Is this a book?
Reboot your life, energize your career and life by taking a break.
Yeah, that is where I'm at. Because at this point, I feel like I got so burnt out that I fully pushed myself into a career path where I will not be a creative. And I know that that's not actually what I want. I know that I love investing in other people's voices too. And I know that education is a big part of how I've identified. And so I know I will want to come back to it. I just got really hurt. I don't know. And so I also want to write my play. And taking a year off would be a great time to do that. And so once I come back, I'll start the LLC, have my play written, have people looking at the play, and I'll still be doing my job, my full-time job at a tech company. So my like fiscal goals are like, in addition to whatever my salary is, I would like to, in order to feel comfortable enough to quit my job, I gotta make at least 60K creatively. So figuring out how to like make money in a scalable way that's not just me gigging all of the time, would be where I'd be at. So the timeline is like 1 to 3 years. So taking a year off, coming back, figuring out what doing creative stuff would look like, figuring out what my money would look like with that, having an accountant. And then after that, putting on my play, putting on the production, all that stuff. So my next steps are writing the play. And then once I feel ready enough to have someone read it, that is when I'll start the application process for the LLC.
You don't have to wait. You could do the LLC.
I know.
today. I just want to
I
tell
know.
you.
I know.
I just want to.
I know. But I want to, I'm in therapy right now. And like, I think that this makes sense for me. Yeah, I don't know.
I'm just letting you know. I was just saying, not that you, but just to like, you don't, it can be there because that can happen. Well, thank you so much for sharing. And I also want to say, it doesn't sound like you're necessarily taking a break. It sounds like you're making some strategic choices.
Yeah.
Like you're just not showing up how you showed up. You're showing up for yourself in a different way. Because you're still being very creative. So I just want to say it's like you're being strategic with your time in a different way now.
Thank you.
I wanted to share just a one-liner with some context. Hop on inspiration because inspiration dies quickly. So that came to me from a group that I'm in. But if you think about it, you can be inspired and immediately you're like, oh, I want to do something. If we sit on that, the energy from that inspiration can die so quickly that you need some more inspiration. And one of those things, and this kind of points to what Ashley just said, you can set it up and you don't actually have to do anything with it. But that way you've moved on the level of inspiration that you received right in this moment. And then that can be the thing that you can refer yourself back to. And whether it be the LLC or something else, operating with on that first jolt of inspiration and then letting that be the driving force moving you forward. Because I see you in a place to where you can use this break as exploration. What are some other things in the creative world that you're interested in? You know, what are some other areas that you may have never explored before, where you don't have to throw your entire self into, but you can, oh, I never knew that existed. You know, so being able to dabble a little bit more outside of being committing to, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is all that exists.
And that is all that I am and all who I ever could be.
Exactly.
Oh my
And
God.
I think being brought to, I think this could be a very strong period of say yes for you. Say yes to the things, right? The things that, I would have never said yes to this before, but just for the heck of it, I'm going to say yes this time and see where it takes me. Because I understand, both you and CC, that burnout and working for somebody else's dream. I can't do it again if it does not align with my core values. And I say that because I invest in this dream of Ebony Road Players, and I'm okay with investing in that because it does not steal my ability to invest in my own dreams. And I believe in the dream myself. I think you can easily find the misalignment when you're like, I don't believe in that dream though. And anytime that you come to a point where you don't believe in the dream that you're investing in, it's time to pivot. And the cool thing is there's no end to the amount of pivots that you can do and when you can pivot. That's it.
Thank you for sharing that, Kiana, because that's right. That's right on point. I'm a massive imperfect action encourager, because that's how we move forward. Demita, would you like to share? Are you able to come off mute and share what kind of you've shared a little bit, but what kind of creative business, or respond to any of the questions?
Absolutely. I just want to say thank everyone for sharing, and 100% Kiana, Ashley, what everyone has shared. I totally agree. I'm just a little caveat before I just give my few little points. I believe in not giving up on myself. After I had gotten COVID and had gotten in a show, I could not get through a 45-minute set. So I'm in the process of doing my therapy and getting my mind, body, soul, and spirit back in fighting power so I can be better than I was before. And in the interim, I'm so grateful for Visionary Academy because this is allowing me to do the step-by-step. So with that said, I am going to solidify my business name for my entertainment entity this week. And then I'm going to work on my executive summary, my vision and my mission statements, and get all of my documentation. Hopefully, these are movable goals, but in my mind, November 28th. And then I want my entertainment company to serve the underserved, everyone in the entertainment industry, and veterans. I want to invest in a coach, get those bank accounts situated by December 5th, hopefully get a website going by December 16th. I want to get my branding taken care of by the new year. And then long-term, I'd like to partner with Ebony Road Players with some sort of artistic summer workshop that will equip students the way you guys are equipping us as adults, like run them through auditions and give them ideas that there are other things that you can do in the entertainment industry. Had I had that information when I was younger, it would be a different situation. So I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I'm just gonna put it out there. I want to have $250,000 so I can fund everybody and help
That's
them with their stuff.
yes.
Be blessed to be a blessing. So that's the goal. Because if you hoard it and keep it to yourself, who is that benefiting, right? And I just, that's it. I have an idea about a Donna Washington project that I would like to get the whole director and everything and the individual to and funnel that through Ebony Road Players as well. So I love this opportunity to be able to connect with like-minded individuals, and eventually I'm quite sure we're all going to be working together some way, shape, or form. So I'm excited. So that's me.
Come on, Demita. And I'm so glad you said money, because what I was gonna say is nobody said their money goal. And one thing that I think that we don't do, but I'm gonna share you just my journey to say, we have to talk about money. So I talk about money like a lot more than other people, like actual numbers. So when I quit my job, the story is, I'll tell you the story in a nutshell. But the point is, I'm a person that always just worked for an organization. I didn't want to have a business. I quit my job during COVID. I had got offered a program officer job that I thought I would like. The week I started that job, I started my LLC because I was like, I cannot work. It was not a good fit. But then I had already and I loved my old job. Like my old job is the one alternate routes. I still talk to them. I do contracts. I'm on their board, blah, blah, blah. But I was like, I just need a shift. But see you. Oh, I was hoping to share. Oh, you said you was hoping I was share. I thought you were saying you were hopping off. But yeah, so in that, I quit the job. I had got my first contract under my the actual business, like the actual LLC. Because like I told you, I'm like, y'all, I contracted. So I'm telling y'all this because, for example, I didn't get PPP because I want an LLC. But I have been doing all that stuff for years, but just like, on the side, whatever. So quit the job. And wound up quitting it after 30 days because it was not a fit. Like it, and I don't do that. Like I don't just quit a job, but it was like not a good, it wasn't gonna work. And COVID, all the things, I have a little child. But in the first month, then so I had it was 13,000. So I was like, this is either 3 months or it's 6 months and we only gonna pay rent. Like we're only gonna it's gonna be 3 months, it's gonna be 6 months or whatever. Like we gonna make this thing work. So just to say that I'm not telling you something that but I just I needed space to clear my mind to think about what I wanted to do. Well, in the first month of spending my time on my business, I booked $77,000 in income. So then I had set myself up, and I only made 70. I only had ever made like 70,000 because I always work for nonprofits. So I set myself up right in that first month, and that was just from my network and with no strategy. It was like, I let everybody know, this what I do now. Do you want anybody that ever wanted to have hired me or whatever? This is what I offered, and I booked it. But just to say year over year, so the next year had a business partner. So that was 2020. That was only 6 months of operating, booked that. The second year had a business partner, had a $50,000 loss, and still booked 135,000. And then, and just one thing to say too, I've invested a lot in my business. Everybody, you don't have to, like, I pay for stuff that some people won't pay for. Like, that's just who I am. Like, I got in a whole professional development program, it was like $15,000. People wouldn't do that. But I am a kind of person of where I see my vision, I want to invest in it on the front. Like, I'm that particular person. So a lot of the overhead could have been cut. Like, I have employees. My employees, minimum I ever paid them was $20 an hour. So it's like I did things that you could probably shave off some of my overhead. But I talk numbers to say that's just me. And I haven't even tapped my network really. Like, I really have not tapped my network or did it all right or whatever. And to just say that happened, to give real numbers of like, you can live, but also what you need to live when you work a job is different when you for yourself, because you also get to write off a lot of stuff. So just things to think about are things, if you're a person that like gotta pay for parking, I don't know if y'all pay for parking where you are, or like get dressed and do your hair every week or what. Sometimes a lot of things that you it like costs money to work a 9 to 5. Like it costs you money, like how much lunch you buy. So even calculating that sometime of like, what would it be? What do I really need to earn? And like it's a personal budget, I think, and a business budget is in your packet. What do I really need to earn? Because what I really needed to earn to live my life running my own business is not the same of what it was working for someone else, because I'm in command of my schedule. Even something as simple as childcare, right? Like, well, it's not that simple because y'all know it's expensive. That's a huge thing. But when you have your own company, it's just completely different. So I say that and I speak numbers. So that's why if someone comes and coach with me, I'm like, what's your monthly goal? What you need to quit, because some people have different numbers, right? Like, what do you need to quit? And honestly, the time is going to tell you, right? Like, I probably wouldn't have told you 13,000 is what I needed to quit, but I was at that point, right? Like, that was where I was in life, that was the number. But I don't know if that's what I would have said and if you had asked me, but really understand what it is, because I'm also not the kind of person that's like telling people, oh, go leap and don't have it. But the thing about the security, like we talked about, is like no one's job is really secure. It's like it's a level of security people feel when it's not on you. But again, if you invested that time, those 60 hours, 40 hours that you are doing working for someone else, if you actually did that with a strategy, what would it be? So just in my case, that's my little story. And those numbers are just for the LL, specifically for the LLC, not for the nonprofit and the co-op, because I set those things up. I have not tended them as much, but they are aging. They're becoming an aging business. So when somebody decide, like people have just randomly gave us grants, but I can accept them because the thing is this, I can take the grant. And if somebody decide they want to invest in my co-op, I can take that money. And then when we're ready, the business will still be aging. The businesses will be 2 and 3 years old or 5 and 10 years old. And this is the last little piece I'm going to say. One of the things I ran into, so my business qualifies for a lot of things on income, but I don't qualify on age. So that's why having an LLC, so like I can't get a Bank of America loan yet but I met the income and everything else, but my business wasn't old enough to get it just from sheer that. So sometimes having the age of the business, and you actually can buy aged LLCs, it's like a whole thing. The age of the business actually do help you. So with specifically other people, if you're thinking about it or not, if you got $110, $50 to spare, it's worth doing it because at least your business will still be growing in age if you're not, and this not necessarily to you, Joseph, I was gonna say this to everyone, that it still gets to grow in age while you're deciding what to do with it. So that's my little story. And again, wanted to really talk about numbers because a good thing y'all don't live in a high cost state. You don't live in a state where rent $5,000 a month or something. So it's a lot of moves you can make, and the whole nation is your oyster. So my clients, I just got my first Atlanta client this year, like after almost $300,000 later. So it's like your clients ain't got to be where you live. And the final piece I would say is curate a lifestyle for yourself and a career. I've taught some semesters that extra 6,000, 12,000 a year can anchor your income. What does it look like if you work for an organization teaching creative writing? At least what I'm always encouraging is doing your craft. So even if you're doing your craft, no shade to Starbucks or something, but instead of being at Starbucks, like at least be doing your craft wherever you are. I knew one girl was in a program. They used to have a children's writing program through Kaiser. Kaiser Permanente. So she did like children's theater, but through Kaiser Permanente. So that's still to me a better alignment of a job than just doing something completely outside of your field. So I think using your talents and skills, if you're not ready to completely leap in yourself, using your talents and skills or being at an artistic institution where you can use your other talents and skills, so you're always close to it. And it is enough creative work out here that all of you can be working in your just like, you can be close to creatives. You don't have to be doing something that's completely like just unrelated. So those are my little 2 cents that I have for you that I hope is helpful. And we're a resource for you. And I'm a resource to connect you with other people to support you in any of the areas. Like any resource I have is a resource for you. So I will pause there for any other final feedback today. Thank you so much.
that note, that last line, she's a resource with resources. So pretty much and I'll tell you guys a little bit about the planning of this. We started planning about 8 months before. We had already been funded for this project that was not planned. I'll say that. We just had enough of an idea that we pitched it to our funder and they said, "Oh, we like that. Tell us more." Oh, shoot. So in the planning, we put this committee together and through Edie's daughter, Nikki, she gave us Ashley. And from there, I was like, well, we're looking at this session and this session. Oh, I have somebody for that. I have somebody for that. So everybody, pretty much everybody that we brought into Visionary Academy, one way or another has been connected to AWD is what they call her. Like, I promise you guys, you are in front of a powerhouse right now, because
Thank you.
the amount of connections and the amount of respect that just her name alone garners, it really got to the heart of this program, and the people that that have been recommended come with the same passion that she does, and that is just it. The network that has been built and cultivated for this program and for you guys to utilize I think that's the most powerful thing. I will continue to go on and on and on about, my passion behind Visionary Academy. Edie said it in a podcast that we did. Visionary Academy is my baby. And, I have a baby that's almost a grown man baby, but this is my baby because where else can you get this? And where else can you get it for free? I'm just saying. And to be able to invest in your futures, that our kind of tagline for Visionary Academy is the future of theater, because I really believe that you guys are the future of theater in Grand Rapids, in being able to bring forward programs and projects that have not existed in our area. And it is, I am, every time you guys show up and you participate, I'm so grateful, because it really does, it gives to all of us, right? A robust Black theater community in Grand Rapids, it provides all of us with opportunities, all of us with inspiration, all of us with motivation. So I'm grateful for this space. I'm grateful for the immense amount of like practical information, right? This is stuff that you can take back and you can apply right here, right now. And I encourage you to do that. I encourage you to apply some of it right here, right now. I'm also going to take it back and plug it back into your final projects. Please, if you have not done so already, go through and take some time to utilize the information that you've received already, because we are coming close to pitches. We are about a month away, and I want you guys to be able to really put in as much as you can, because again, this is not about us. This is about, we want to invest in your futures. Earlier this week, Sierra and I had a great conversation. I will open up my calendar to you guys too. If you want to sit down and have a one-on-one and just talk things through, talk through your project, talk through your goals, I am here to do that as well, because I got a lot out of that one-on-one. And for the most part, one of the things that keeps me at Ebony Road Players so strong is I am in complete control of my own schedule. So I have the flexibility to work with yours. I